I learned 3 things the hard winter I moved to Pinecrest Valley, Colorado. Never trust an HOA board president named Brenda. Always read the fine print on your property deed. And spite is the most powerful motivator known to mankind. My name is Kyle Davidson, and I bought my dream property in October 2024. 5 acres of pristine Colorado mountain land with a modest 3-bedroom house, a massive barn, and the best part, a commercial-grade snowplow truck the previous owner threw into the deal. The guy was retiring to Florida and wanted everything gone. I got the whole package for a steal because apparently nobody else wanted to deal with the HOA. Should have been my first warning sign. The Pinecrest Valley HOA managed a community of about 40 homes spread across a private road system that branched off the main county highway. My property sat at the very end of Aspen Ridge Road, the last house before National Forest land. The previous owner, Tom, had used his plow truck for his own driveway, which was a 1/4 mile long and prone to drifting. He mentioned during closing that the HOA had occasionally asked him to help clear roads, but I did not pay much attention. I figured it was neighborly requests, not demands. I work remotely as a software engineer, so the isolation was perfect. My girlfriend Emma lived in Denver and visited on weekends. The rest of the time, I enjoyed the silence, the wildlife, and the fact that my nearest neighbor was half a mile away. The first snow came in mid-November, just a few inches. I fired up the plow truck, a beast of a Ford F450 with a 9-foot blade, and cleared my driveway in 20 minutes. The machine purred like a mechanical lion. Tom had maintained it religiously, and I felt like I had won the lottery with this setup. 2 days after that first snow, I got a knock on my door at 7 in the morning. I opened it to find a woman in her late 40s, blonde hair pulled back so tight it looked painful, wearing a puffy North Face jacket and designer snow boots that had clearly never seen actual snow before that morning. Her smile was the kind that never reached her eyes. "Good morning. You must be Kyle. I am Brenda Whitmore, president of the Pinecrest Valley HOA board." "Morning," I said, still holding my coffee mug. "What can I do for you?" "I wanted to welcome you to the community and discuss your responsibilities as a resident with commercial snow removal equipment." That woke me up faster than the caffeine. "My responsibilities?" She pulled out a folder, because of course she had a folder. According to the HOA bylaws, Section 12, Paragraph 4, any resident with commercial-grade snow removal equipment must provide snow clearing services for all community roads during winter months. The previous owner, Tom Henderson, fulfilled this obligation for 15 years. I blinked at her. "Tom never mentioned that." "Well, it is in the bylaws. I have a copy here for you." She thrust the folder at me. "The county only plows the main highway. Our private roads are our responsibility. We have been relying on resident volunteers, and since you have the equipment—" "Volunteers," I repeated. "So I would volunteer to plow 6 miles of private road. 5.3 miles, actually," she corrected, as if that made it better. "And it is not really volunteering when it is in the bylaws. It is a requirement of residents." I took the folder, more to get her to leave than anything else. "I will read through this and get back to you." Her smile tightened. "The next snow is forecasted for this weekend. We will need the roads cleared by 8 a.m. on days with more than 3 inches of accumulation. Thank you for your cooperation." She walked back to her white Lexus SUV before I could respond. I watched her drive away, then looked down at the folder. Inside was a highlighted copy of the HOA bylaws, sticky notes marking various sections, and a snow removal schedule that had Tom Henderson's name crossed out and mine written in. I spent the next 3 hours reading every word of those bylaws. Brenda was not entirely wrong. Section 12. Paragraph 4 did mention that residents with commercial equipment may be called upon to assist in community maintenance efforts. But the language was vague. May be called upon was not the same as must provide services. And there was absolutely nothing about it being mandatory or unpaid. I called the number on the HOA letterhead. A man answered, introduced himself as Richard Chen, the HOA treasurer. "Richard, this is Kyle Davidson. I just moved into the property at the end of Aspen Ridge Road." "Oh, welcome. What can I help you with?" "Brenda Whitmore just came by and told me I am required to plow all the HOA roads for free. That does not sound right." There was a long pause. "Ah, yeah, Tom used to help us out. Did it as a favor mostly. We would compensate him for fuel, and the HOA gave him a break on his annual dues. So it was not actually required." "Not technically, no. The bylaw language is loose. We have been trying to get funding for a contracted snow removal service, but Brenda keeps blocking it, says it is too expensive. When Tom was here, she convinced him it was mandatory and he was too nice to push back." "Well, I am not Tom," I said. Richard laughed. "Good luck with that. Brenda does not take no for an answer." That Saturday, 14 inches of snow fell overnight. I woke up to 3 missed calls from Brenda and a text message that read, "Roads need to be cleared immediately. Multiple residents cannot get to work." I cleared my own driveway, made breakfast, and ignored my phone. By noon, Brenda was at my door again, this time with 2 other people. A tall man in his 60s who introduced himself as Donald Pierce, HOA vice president, and a younger woman named Susan Martinez, secretary. "Mr. Davidson," Brenda said, skipping all pleasantries, "the roads are impassable. You have a legal obligation to clear them." "Actually, I do not," I said. "I spoke with Richard. The bylaws say I may be asked to help, not that I must. And Tom was compensated for his work." "Tom did his duty to the community," Donald said. "We are all part of an association. We all contribute. I pay my HOA dues. That is my contribution. If you want snow removal services, hire a contractor." Brenda's face was turning red. "Contractors want $8,000 for the season. That is not in our budget. Not my problem." "You are being incredibly selfish," Susan said. "People cannot get to work." "What if there is a medical emergency?" "Then they should take that up with the HOA board for not budgeting proper snow removal. I am not running a charity service." I closed the door. Through the window, I watched them argue in my driveway for 10 minutes before leaving. Over the next week, I received daily calls, emails, and text messages from Brenda. She tried everything from guilt trips about elderly residents to veiled threats about community harmony. I ignored them all. Then the formal letter arrived. Notice of violation was stamped across the top in red. The letter stated that I was in violation of HOA Bylaws Section 12, Paragraph 4, and had 72 hours to comply or face fines of $100 per day. I called a real estate attorney in Boulder named Patricia Mills. I explained the situation and emailed her copies of all the documents. She called me back 2 hours later, laughing. "Mr. Davidson, this is the most overreaching HOA nonsense I have seen in months, and that is saying something. They have absolutely no legal standing. The bylaw language is not enforceable as a mandatory requirement, and they certainly cannot fine you for not providing free labor. So what do? I will send them a cease and desist. If they continue, we can sue for harassment. You might even get your legal fees covered." Patricia sent the letter that afternoon. For 3 blissful days, I heard nothing from the HOA. Then it snowed again. 10 inches on a Tuesday night. Wednesday morning, I woke up to find my driveway blocked. Someone had pushed snow from the main road directly into my driveway entrance, creating a wall about 4 feet high and 20 feet wide. My plow truck was in the barn at the end of my driveway. I was effectively trapped. I called the county sheriff's office. A deputy named Martinez, no relation to Susan, came out around noon. "That is definitely deliberate," he said, looking at the packed snow wall. "You said you think it was the HOA. They are the only ones with motivation. I refused to plow their roads for free, and now I am blocked in." "Can you prove who did it?" "No, but I am going to install cameras today." He took photos and filed a report, but without proof, there was nothing he could do. I spent 3 hours with a shovel and my truck clearing the blockage. I drove to Durango that afternoon and bought a complete security camera system. 8 cameras with night vision, motion detection, and cloud backup. I spent the evening installing them around my property, making sure every angle of my driveway and the road entrance was covered. Emma came up that Friday. She took one look at my camera setup and shook her head. "You are going to war with the HOA." "They started it," I said. "Kyle, maybe you should just plow the roads. Is it worth all this hassle?" "It is not about the plowing. It is about them thinking they can force me to provide free labor. If I give in now, what is next? Free landscaping, free repairs on the clubhouse." "There is no clubhouse. You get my point," she sighed. "Just do not do anything stupid." The next snow came on a Sunday night, 12 inches of heavy, wet snow. Perfect packing snow. The kind that makes great snowmen and terrible driving conditions. Monday morning, my cameras caught everything. At 6 a.m., a black pickup truck with a plow blade, driven by Donald Pierce, pushed snow directly into my driveway entrance again. This time, the wall was even bigger, nearly 5 feet high and extending across the entire width of my driveway. I had video evidence. I called Deputy Martinez back. He came out, watched the footage, and nodded slowly. "That is criminal mischief, property obstruction, and possibly harassment. I will talk to him. I want to press charges." "Are you sure? These things can escalate." "I am sure." Donald Pierce was issued a citation and a court date. The fine was $500 plus restitution for my time clearing the obstruction. Brenda called me that evening, absolutely furious. "You had Donald arrested." "He was cited, not arrested, and he blocked my property. What did you expect? This is absurd. We are trying to maintain a community, and you are tearing it apart over a simple request." "A simple request would have been asking nicely and offering fair compensation. You demanded free labor and threatened me with fines. Then someone, under your direction or not, blocked my driveway. Twice. I had nothing to do with that. Do not care. Tell your board members to stay off my property and away from my driveway. Next time, I am getting a restraining order." She hung up on me. The HOA held an emergency meeting the following week. I was not invited, but Richard Chen called me afterward. "They voted to fine you $5,000 for non-compliance and causing discord in the community." I actually laughed. "They cannot do that." I voted against it. So did 2 other board members, but Brenda, Donald, and Susan pushed it through. Just thought you should know. I forwarded the information to Patricia Mills. She filed a lawsuit against the HOA within 48 hours, seeking an injunction against the fines, damages for harassment, and legal fees. The lawsuit changed everything. Suddenly, the other HOA residents started paying attention. Most of them had no idea what was happening. They assumed Tom had plowed the roads out of the goodness of his heart, not because Brenda had coerced him into it. A resident named Jennifer Hale started a petition to recall Brenda from the board. Within a week, she had 23 signatures, more than enough for a vote. Brenda went nuclear. She sent a mass email to all residents claiming I was a troublemaker who was suing the HOA and costing everyone money. She painted herself as the victim, just trying to keep the community safe and functional, but Jennifer countered with the facts. She forwarded my attorney's cease and desist letter and the video footage of Donald blocking my driveway to every resident. Public opinion shifted fast. The recall vote was scheduled for February 15th. Meanwhile, the snow kept coming. Colorado was having one of its heaviest winters in years. By early February, there had been 6 major snowstorms. The HOA roads were a mess. Some residents hired private plows for their individual driveways. Others carpooled from the main highway. A few just stayed home when it got bad. Brenda kept calling me, kept sending letters, each one more desperate than the last. She offered to pay me, offered to reduce my HOA dues, offered to make me a board member. I ignored them all. Then she made her biggest mistake. On February 10th, another massive storm hit. 18 inches overnight with drifts up to 3 feet in places. The county issued a travel advisory. I spent the morning plowing my own driveway, and then, because I am not actually a monster, I plowed my elderly neighbor's driveway. Helen was 83 and lived alone. Her son usually came up to help her, but the roads were too bad. As I was finishing Helen's driveway, Brenda pulled up in her Lexus, struggling through the deep snow. She got out, slipping slightly, and marched over to me. "You will plow our roads," she said. "No greeting, no pretense of civility. No, I will not. I will make your life hell. I will fine you for every tiny violation I can find. I will make sure you regret ever moving here. You are already trying that. It is not working." Her face was scarlet. "You selfish, arrogant." "Finish that sentence carefully," I said. "You are on camera." She looked around and spotted the camera mounted on Helen's garage, pointed right at us. I had installed it for Helen 2 weeks earlier after she mentioned someone had been going through her mailbox. Brenda opened her mouth, closed it, then turned and struggled back to her SUV. She tried to back out but got stuck in the snow. I watched her spin her tires for 5 minutes before she finally got traction and left. The recall vote happened on schedule. Brenda lost, 28-7. She was removed from the board immediately. Donald Pierce resigned the same day. Susan Martinez stayed on but lost her secretary position. Jennifer Hale became the new president. Her first action was to contract with a professional snow removal company for the rest of the season and budget for it properly in the next fiscal year. Her second action was to officially apologize to me on behalf of the HOA and drop all fines and violations. I dropped my lawsuit in return, though the HOA still paid my legal fees as part of the settlement. But I was not done. See, Brenda had one more play left. Even though she was off the board, she still owned property in Pinecrest Valley, and she still had allies. On February 20th, 5 days after her recall, someone vandalized my plow truck. All 4 tires were slashed, the hydraulic lines for the plow blade were cut, and someone spray-painted "selfish prick" across the hood. My cameras caught it all, 3 people, wearing ski masks and dark clothing at 2 a.m. But I recognized the vehicles they arrived in. Brenda's white Lexus, Donald's black pickup, and Susan's silver Honda CR-V. I called Deputy Martinez. This time he brought backup. The 3 of them were arrested at their homes that morning. Vandalism, criminal mischief, conspiracy. The damages to my truck totaled almost $8,000. Brenda hired a lawyer, claimed she was nowhere near my property, that someone must have stolen her car. But my cameras showed her face clearly when she got out of the vehicle. She had taken off her mask too early, probably thinking she was out of camera range. The criminal case moved slowly, but the evidence was overwhelming. In April, Brenda, Donald, and Susan all pled guilty to reduced charges. Brenda got 6 months in county jail, suspended to probation, and had to pay full restitution for my truck repairs. Donald and Susan got similar deals. But the real consequences came from the community. All three were pariahs. Brenda listed her house for sale in May and moved to Wyoming. Donald stayed but kept to himself. Susan tried to ride it out but eventually left for Grand Junction. Jennifer Hale turned out to be an excellent HOA president. She streamlined the bylaws, eliminated the vague enforcement language, and actually created a functional budget. The snow removal contract worked perfectly for the rest of the season. Emma and I got married that summer in my backyard, with the mountains as our backdrop. Helen baked us a cake. Half the HOA residents showed up, and everyone agreed it was the best community event Pinecrest Valley had seen in years. But here is where the story takes its best turn. After all that drama, after the lawsuits and the arrests and the community upheaval, I realized something. I actually enjoyed plowing snow. There was something meditative about it, the early mornings, the clean white landscape, the satisfaction of clearing a path. So in November, as winter approached again, I approached Jennifer with an offer. "I will plow the HOA roads," I said. "But I want a proper contract, fair market rate, reimbursement for fuel and maintenance, and everything in writing." She laughed. "After everything Brenda put you through, you are willing to do exactly what she wanted." No, Brenda wanted free labor and compliance. "I am offering a business arrangement between equals." We worked out a contract. The HOA paid me $4,000 for the season, which was less than the commercial company but still fair for the actual work involved. I plowed after any snow over 3 inches, with flexibility for timing based on weather conditions. It worked beautifully. I was already plowing my own quarter-mile driveway, so doing the HOA roads added maybe 90 minutes to each session. The extra income covered my truck maintenance, and then some. But I never forgot the principle of the thing. And I never passed up an opportunity to remind people what happens when an HOA overreaches, which brings me to the moment this story is really about. The moment that became legend in Pinecrest Valley. It happened in January, 1 year after Brenda's first visit to my door. Jennifer had been president for almost a year, and things were running smoothly. But there was still a small faction of residents who thought I had been too harsh on Brenda. They whispered that I had overreacted, that I should have just helped out, that I had damaged community relations. This group was led by a woman named Patricia Stone, who had been friends with Brenda. Patricia owned one of the larger properties near the HOA's main entrance, where all 5 roads converged at a gated entry. The gate was mostly decorative. It stayed open during the day and closed at night, more for aesthetics than security. But it had become a symbol of Pinecrest Valley, featured on all the HOA literature and the community website. Patricia had been making noise at HOA meetings about how the snow removal was not as good as when Tom did it, how I was being overpaid, how Jennifer was wasting community funds. It was all nonsense, provably false, but she was persistent. Then came the storm. January 18th, a monster of a blizzard. The Weather Service issued warnings 3 days in advance. 2 to 3 feet of snow expected, high winds, near zero visibility. The county activated emergency protocols. I prepped my truck, stocked up on fuel, and settled in. The snow started Friday afternoon and did not stop until Sunday morning. By the time it was over, we had 31 inches in my driveway. The drifts were higher, some reaching 5 or 6 feet where the wind had piled it up. Sunday morning, I started my plowing route. My driveway first, then Helen's, then the main HOA road starting from the back and working toward the entrance. I was about halfway through, clearing Aspen Ridge Road when my phone rang. It was Jennifer. "Kyle, I have Patricia Stone on the other line and she is losing her mind. She says you plowed her in." "What are you talking about?" "She says there is a wall of snow blocking her driveway and you did it deliberately." I stopped the truck. "Jennifer, I have not even gotten to her section yet. I am still on Aspen Ridge." "That is what I told her, but she insists you are sabotaging her. She is threatening to call the sheriff and sue you personally." I took a deep breath. "Tell her I will get to her driveway when I get there. I am plowing in order back to front like always." "She wants you to do hers first, says she has to get to work." "On a Sunday after a blizzard, I am just telling you what she said." I thought about it for a moment. Thought about all the harassment from Brenda, the blocked driveways, the vandalism, the legal fees, the stress. I thought about Patricia and her faction, always criticizing, always complaining, never appreciating what they had, and I made a decision. "Jennifer, I will handle it." I finished Aspen Ridge Road, then moved to Willow Creek Drive, then Elk Run Lane. I took my time, did thorough work, made sure every road was clear and safe. Finally, around 3 p.m., I reached the main entrance area where Patricia Stone lived. Her property was right next to the decorative gate, a large modern house with a circular driveway. And yes, there was a significant amount of snow in her driveway, but it was not from me. It was from the storm natural drifting against her house and the embankment of her circular drive. I could have plowed her out. Should have, according to my contract. The HOA roads included clearing to the edge of each driveway entrance. But here is what I did instead. I plowed the main road leading to the entrance. I cleared it perfectly, right up to the gate. Then I took every bit of snow from that final stretch, raised my blade to its highest angle, and pushed it all into a massive pile directly in front of the decorative gate. I made pass after pass, piling it higher. The snow was perfect for packing, heavy and wet. I used the full width of my blade, creating a wall that grew taller with each pass. When I was done, there was a mountain of snow blocking the entire gate entrance. 10 feet high, maybe 15 feet wide, completely impassable. The only way in or out of Pinecrest Valley was now my road. The route I had just finished clearing. To reach it, Patricia Stone would have to drive all the way around the community on the roads I had plowed, adding about 2 miles to her route. I took a photo of my masterpiece, got back in my truck and drove home. My phone started ringing before I even reached my driveway. First, Jennifer. "Kyle, what did you do?" I plowed the roads, all of them, as contracted. "There is a giant pile of snow blocking the main gate." "Is there?" "Must have been where the plow blade naturally deposited the snow. You know, physics and all that." "Kyle, look, my contract says I clear the roads, which I did. All of them are passable. If residents want to use the back route, which is the way I just came, they can access the highway just fine. That adds 15 minutes to everyone's drive. Or someone could hire a contractor to clear the gate. I do not do gates, just roads." She was quiet for a moment and then I heard it. A snort of laughter she tried to suppress. "You are terrible," she said. "I am efficient." "Talk to you later, Jennifer." Next was Patricia Stone. She did not even identify herself, just started screaming. "You did this on purpose. This is harassment. This is retaliation. I am calling the sheriff. I am calling my lawyer." "Madam, I do not know who you are, but I fulfilled my contracted services. All HOA roads are clear and passable. If you need additional services, you can hire a private contractor. You know exactly who I am. You blocked the gate deliberately. The snow had to go somewhere. I put it in the most logical location based on the geography and wind patterns. If you check my previous plowing jobs, you will see I always deposit excess snow in that general area. This was technically true. I usually did push extra snow near the gate, though never anywhere close to 10 feet high. This is sabotage. This is snow removal. Have a nice day. I hung up. The sheriff's office did send someone out. Deputy Martinez again, who took one look at the snow pile and could not keep a straight face. That is quite a pile, he said. Big storm, lots of snow, had to put it somewhere. Uh-huh, and it just happened to end up blocking the only gate. The road is clear. Everyone can access the highway via Aspen Ridge to County Road 14. That is a perfectly legal route. He walked around the pile, measuring it with his eyes. You know what? I do not see any violation here. You cleared the roads as contracted. Where you put the excess snow is not really a legal matter unless it is on someone's private property. The gate area is HOA common property, I said. I checked. Then it sounds like an HOA problem, not a sheriff problem. He tipped his hat. Stay warm, Kyle. The photo I took went viral in our community email chain. Someone shared it on a local Facebook group. Then, a Denver news station picked it up as a light-hearted human interest piece. Local HOA dispute leads to 10-foot snow pile, the headline read. They interviewed Jennifer, who diplomatically said it was a misunderstanding about snow placement protocols. They tried to interview Patricia, but she refused. They interviewed me, and I played it completely straight. I take my snow removal contract seriously, I told the reporter. Safety is my first priority, which is why all roads are completely clear and accessible. The snow has to go somewhere, and I made the best decision I could based on the conditions. The reporter, a young woman with an obvious sense of humor, asked, "Is it true the pile is blocking the community's decorative gate? There is an alternate route that is fully functional. No one is trapped or unable to access their homes, but it does add significant time to their commute." Well, that is something for the HOA to consider when planning their snow removal budget and protocols. I am just the contractor. The story ran that evening. By the next morning, it had been shared on Reddit, Twitter, and various HOA horror story forums. I became a minor folk hero in the dealing with difficult HOA's community. The pile stayed for 3 days. On day 1, Patricia demanded an emergency HOA meeting. Jennifer pointed out that calling a meeting required 72 hours notice according to the bylaws. On day 2, Patricia tried to hire her own contractor to clear the gate, but the snow was so compacted and the pile so large that the contractor quoted her $2,000. She refused to pay. On day 3, Patricia's faction called for a vote to terminate my contract. Jennifer pointed out that my contract was for the full season, and breaking it without cause would open the HOA to a breach of contract lawsuit. On day 4, the temperature rose, and the pile started to melt naturally. The gate became accessible again by day 7. But the message was sent and received. At the next HOA meeting, Patricia Stone was silent. Her faction dispersed. No one criticized the snow removal service again for the rest of the season. Jennifer called me after that meeting. "You are lucky that worked out. Luck had nothing to do with it." I knew the bylaws, knew my contract, and knew I was technically in the right. Still risky. "Sometimes you have to make a point," she laughed. "Well, you definitely did that. Fair warning, though. The board is voting next month on whether to renew your contract for next season. After the gate incident, it might be close. Let me know how it goes." The vote came in March. The board voted unanimously to renew my contract with a $500 raise, Jennifer called to tell me. Patricia Stone abstained from voting. She is on the board. Got elected in the winter elections. We needed someone to fill Brenda's old seat. That must be fun for you. Oh, it is a delight, she said sarcastically. But after the gate thing, she knows she cannot touch you. The community loves you now. You are the folk hero who stood up to HOA tyranny. I just moved some snow. You did more than that. You reminded everyone that an HOA is supposed to serve the homeowners, not the other way around. Brenda spent years making people forget that. The following winter was smooth. I plowed the roads, everyone was happy, and Patricia Stone stayed quiet. Helen passed away that spring at 84. Her son thanked me for taking care of her driveway and being a good neighbor. At her funeral, half of Pinecrest Valley showed up. Emma and I talked about starting a family. The house had enough room, the community was finally stable, and I had built a good reputation as both a software engineer and a part-time snow removal contractor. On the 1-year anniversary of the 10-foot snow pile, someone in the community commissioned a local artist to create a painting of it. They presented it to me at the annual HOA summer barbecue. It hangs in my office now, right above my desk. A massive white pile blocking a decorative gate with my truck in the background. The artist titled it Malicious Compliance. Patricia Stone left the HOA board after 1 term and never ran again. She still lives in Pinecrest Valley, but we have an understanding. She does not complain about my services, and I make sure to clear her driveway entrance particularly well. Brenda never came back to Colorado. Last I heard, she was causing problems with an HOA in Cheyenne. Some people never learn. Donald Pierce and I actually became cordial over time. He apologized formally, paid his restitution without complaint, and acknowledged he had made mistakes. We are not friends, but we nod when we pass each other. Susan Martinez moved away and I never heard from her again. The real victory, though, was not about any of those people. It was about the principle. When I bought my property in Pinecrest Valley, I thought I was just getting a house and some land. But I got a lesson in standing up for yourself, in knowing your rights, and in understanding that sometimes the most effective rebellion is following the rules exactly as written. Could I have just plowed the roads from the beginning and avoided all the drama? Sure. Tom Henderson did it for 15 years, but Tom Henderson let himself be taken advantage of. He let Brenda convince him that unpaid labor was his obligation. And that set a precedent that would have continued forever if someone did not push back. I was that someone, and that 10-foot snow pile, that was not just snow, it was a statement. It said that you cannot demand free labor, harass people who refuse, vandalize their property, and expect no consequences. It said that an HOA is a service organization, not a feudal lordship. It said that homeowners have rights and those rights matter. 3 years later, Pinecrest Valley HOA is one of the best-run associations in western Colorado. Jennifer Hale expanded the board, implemented transparent budgeting, and created committees where homeowners actually have input. Property values increased. People wanted to move here because the HOA was functional and fair, not because it was cheap or exclusive. And every winter, I plow the roads. I do it professionally, efficiently, and for fair compensation. My contract is renewed every year without debate. But I keep that painting in my office as a reminder that sometimes the best way to win is not to fight harder, but to follow the rules more carefully than your opponents expect. To understand the system better than they do. To turn their own procedures against them. Brenda Whitmore demanded I plow their streets for free. She thought she could bully me into compliance, use vague bylaws and social pressure to get unpaid labor. Instead, I read the bylaws carefully, hired a good attorney, documented everything, and waited for them to overreach. When they vandalized my truck, They handed me everything I needed to end the fight permanently. And when Patricia Stone continued the same pattern of entitlement and complaints, I did not fight back with anger or confrontation. I just piled snow 10 feet high at their gate. The snow melted. The gate reopened. But the lesson remained. You cannot force people to serve you. You cannot demand without offering fair exchange. You cannot lead a community through intimidation and expect loyalty. Pinecrest Valley learned that lesson the hard way, but they learned it. And now, 3 years later, we have a real community. People help each other because they want to, not because someone threatens them with fines. The HOA facilitates and coordinates, but it does not rule. That is how it is supposed to work. I am Kyle Davidson. I own 5 acres in the Colorado mountains, run a successful software engineering career, and have the best snow removal side business I could have imagined. I learned to stand up for myself, to know my worth, and to never back down when someone tries to take advantage. And I learned that sometimes the best revenge is not revenge at all. Sometimes it is just a really, really big pile of snow placed in exactly the right spot at exactly the right time. Emma asked me once if I regretted any of it. The stress, the legal fees, the conflict. I looked at that painting on my office wall and thought about it. No, I said, not even a little bit. Because some things are worth fighting for: your dignity, your rights, your refusal to be bullied, and if that fight happens to involve 10 feet of snow blocking a pretentious decorative gate, well, that is just a bonus. The next winter, I added a clause to my contract. Any requests for special snow placement, early service, or priority clearing would be considered additional services and billed accordingly. No one has ever requested special services. They do not need to. The roads get cleared efficiently and fairly. Everyone pays their share through HOA dues. And we all understand that mutual respect and fair compensation make a community work better than demands and entitlement ever could. Helen's son still sends me a Christmas card every year. Jennifer Hale and I have become genuine friends. Emma and I are expecting our first child this spring. Pinecrest Valley is home now. Real home. The kind where you know your neighbors, where people look out for each other, where conflicts get resolved through communication instead of escalation. It took a war with the HOA to get here. It took lawsuits and criminal charges and a legendary pile of snow, but it was worth every moment. Because now, when snow falls on these Colorado mountains, I do not see a battleground. I see beautiful white landscapes that I get paid fairly to clear. I see neighbors who appreciate the work. I see a community that functions the way it should. And I see that painting on my office wall, reminding me that sometimes the right kind of petness, applied with precision and perfect timing, can change everything. Brenda Whitmore wanted free labor and blind obedience. She got neither. What she got was a lesson in respecting people's rights, understanding contract law, and recognizing that pushing too hard creates pushback. What Patricia Stone got was a 10-foot snow pile and the understanding that criticizing someone's work without cause has consequences. What I got was a community, a reputation, and the satisfaction of knowing I stood my ground when it mattered. The snow falls every winter. I plow it every time. And life in Pinecrest Valley continues, better than it has been in decades. All because I refused to plow their streets for free and had the patience, the knowledge, and the timing to make my point in the most memorable way possible. 10 feet high, right at their gate, perfectly legal and absolutely glorious. That is how you handle an HOA that overreaches, not with anger, not with empty threats, with snow. Lots and lots of snow, placed exactly where it will make the biggest statement while following every rule to the letter. And if that makes me petty, so be it. I am petty, I am right, and my roads are always clear.